Hi, in this video, I'm going to talk about three different concepts. The first one is airlifting, and I'm going to explain to you why this process is important. It's important because when air is lifted, it eventually is what causes clouds to form. We know that when a parcel of air is warmer than the air around it, it will rise. Then the water vapor in the air parcels will eventually form into clouds, and those clouds will then produce precipitation. And precipitation is necessary for life on Earth. There are two processes of airlifting, and we're going to look at what those are. The first one is called orographic lifting, and this occurs when air is forced to rise over a mountainous barrier. And the second process is called convergence lifting. This occurs when air flows from more than one direction, collides, and then forces air upwards. The next concept I'm going to talk about is precipitation. Now, precipitation is formed when water evaporates into the air, and then it turns to water vapor. As that vapor rises, it condenses into water droplets that form clouds. Eventually, a cloud will become so full of water that it cannot hold anymore. This is called supersaturation. When that cloud becomes too saturated, it will release water that falls to the earth again, and that starts the cycle again. Just to recap, the different types of precipitation are rain, snow, sleet, and hail. I will let you look over those real quick. And the last concept I'm going to talk about are fronts. Our book talks about fronts and describes them as boundary surfaces that separate air masses of different densities, one of which is usually warmer and contains more moisture than the other. However, fronts can form between any two contrasting air masses. There are four types of fronts: warm fronts, cold fronts, occluded fronts, and stationary fronts. I drew some pictures of them, so I will show you, and I'll talk about what each one, the characteristics of each one. So the cold front is here. The weather in cold fronts tends to be more violent, and there's usually a sharp temperature drop. This can include heavy downpours and vigorous wind gusts. The intensity of precipitation is greater in cold fronts, but the duration is typically shorter. Here is a warm front. So during most of the year, the warm fronts produce light to moderate precipitation over a wide area. During the winter, this precipitation is often snow, but during late fall and early spring, the precipitation often changes from snow to sleet to freezing rain, and finally to rain as the warm front approaches. These warm fronts are occasionally associated with thunderstorms in the spring and fall, and they produce a gradual increase in temperature. Next, we have an occluded front. These include some complex weather. They're capable of initiating precipitation on their own. They may result in heavy rain in the warmer months or a blizzard in the winter. And last but not least, we have our stationary front, which typically leads to gentle to moderate precipitation, although flooding can occur along the cold side of a stationary front if the front remains in place for a long time. So that's all. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you learned something new.